सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of Ramakrishna, the Great Master, written by Shardanandji Maharaj. We are now into the chapter Sri Ramakrishna as the spiritual teacher. In the last class, we were discussing about how Sri Ramakrishna became the Kalpataru, the wish fulfilling tree of all the spiritual values, and started giving everybody whatever they wanted in spiritual life. We shall now continue with that. Girish Chandra Ghosh was questioned by Sri Ramakrishna. Addressing him, Sri Ramakrishna asked him, Girish, what have you seen in this which makes you say so many things publicly in glorification of this before one and all? Although Girish was so abruptly questioned, his faith remained unshaken. Hurriedly and with overflowing adoration, he stood up, came to the path, knelt down at the feet of Master. With folded hands, he said in a choked voice, what more can I say about him, even a fraction of whose glory Vyasa and Valmiki. Vyasa was the great rishi who has edited and composed so many Purana scriptures. He has edited and composed the Bhagavata. He has edited and gave the form of all 18 Puranas, Mahabharata, and so many other things. Brahma Sutra, everything was brought into that form by the great Maharshi. And the Ramayana, the great Mahakavya, was brought about by Valmiki. So, what more can I say? Girish Chandra Ghosh is telling about him, even a fraction of whose glory, the great Vyasa Maharshi in all his Puranas and all the other scriptures, and Valmiki in his Ramayana, miserably failed to express in their immortal epics and Puranas. Hearing Girish's words charged with such wonderful faith, the master had horripilation all over the body. Sri Ramakrishna's mind ascended to a high plane and he was in samadhi. Then, seeing the master's face illumined with a divine halo, Girish Chandra Ghosh cried out in great joy, Jai Sri Ramakrishna, Jai Ramakrishna, Jai Ramakrishna. Glory unto Ramakrishna, glory unto Ramakrishna. And took the dust of his feet again and again. Meanwhile, in a state of divine semi consciousness, Sri Ramakrishna looked at all the present and said smilingly, What more shall I say to you? May all of you be spiritually awakened. The words used there by Sri Ramakrishna, exact words were Tomader Chaitanya Hok. Tomader Chaitanya Hok. May all of you be spiritually awakened. May all of you be spiritually awakened. So, this message, this touch of Sri Ramakrishna is also for all of us. Tomader Chaitanya Hok. May all of you be spiritually awakened. In English, it is not sufficient to explain those words. Tomader Chaitanya Hok. Let your consciousness, Chaitanya means consciousness, be awakened. And what is that? You are already of the form of consciousness. We have that Atma Swarupa, Parabrahma Swarupa. We are all of the form of the nature of the Paramatma Swarupa, or Atma Swarupa, Parabrahma Swarupa. God in totality is present in us, but we are not aware of him. We have forgotten him. So he's already there. Now, Sri Ramakrishna is telling, let that consciousness be awakened in you. That means, let you get that Atma Jnana, liberation, eternal freedom from the bondage of all the sorrows and sufferings. So, let your consciousness be awakened. So, what is that which is within us? That Satchit, Akhanda Satchit Ananda. Akhanda means unbroken. Sat, infinite existence, absolute. Chit, infinite consciousness. And a small fraction of that consciousness is knowledge. And so you have that infinite knowledge, absolute. Then you are of the nature of infinite bliss, absolute. So Ramakrishna is now blessing all of us, telling that let that consciousness of yours be awakened. That means let all of you have that highest realization. So if we can understand that again and again, keep in our mind the blessings, the words of Sri Ramakrishna, let your consciousness be awakened. Tomader Chaitanya Hok. Tomader means all of you, of all of you. Chaitanya Hok. Let there be your consciousness awakened. So these were the words of Sri Ramakrishna. May all of you be spiritually awakened. So it's not ordinary spiritual awakening, but Ramakrishna is telling that you will get complete Brahma Gnana or Atma Gnana, not even a little of less than that. When the devotees heard those words of blessings and protection from fear, they raised repeated cries of joy, exclaiming, Jai Ramakrishna, Jai Ramakrishna. You have to note the word again. When the devotees heard those words of blessings and protection from fear, that's why in the temples you can see the Lord or the goddess will be always sitting or standing with the posture, one hand like this and another hand like this. So this is Vara, giving you boon. Whatever you want, I am going to give. This is Abhaya, fearlessness. I am here. Do not be afraid. I will protect you. So that's why you can see the images in that posture. What do you want? What desire do you have? I'm going to fulfill all your desires like this. And this is Abhaya. I'm going to protect you from all fears. Do not be afraid. So now, when the devotees heard those words of Sri Ramakrishna of blessings and protection from fear, they raised repeated cries of joy, exclaiming, Glory to Sri Ramakrishna, glory to Ramakrishna, Jai Ramakrishna, Jai Ramakrishna. Some of them saluted him, some of them showered flowers, some again came and touched his feet. No sooner had the first devotee touched his feet and stood up than the master, in that state of divine semi consciousness, touched the devotee's chest. Just a touch was enough. And passing his hand in the upward direction, and passing his hand in the upward direction, said, Awake. What is he awakening? What is he asking that to come up? He's awakening the Kundalini, which is asleep, and allowing that to flow through the Sushumna canal and reach the Sahasrara. Come up. No sooner had the first devotee touched his feet and stood up than Sri Ramakrishna, in that state of divine semi consciousness, touched the devotee's chest and passing his hand in that upward direction, said, Awake, awake. As soon as the second person came and saluted him and stood up, he did the same thing to him. So also to the third, to the fourth, and so on. In this way, he touched one after another all of those who approached him thus. And there arose by that marvelous touch a wonderful mood in the mind of each one of them. Whatever conditions, stages of evolution they were in, suppose if they were devotees of some particular deity or God, that vision of the God in their heart, or if they are formless, worshipping the formless God, the light in their heart, everything, whatever they were, whatever they liked, all their ideal were bright now in their heart. In this way, he touched one after another all of those who approached him thus, and there arose by that marvelous touch a wonderful mood in the mind of each one of them. Some of them began to laugh. Why? Out of joy. Some of them weep again, weeping out of joy. some to meditate, and some again to call aloud all others in order that they might also be blessed by receiving the grace of Sri Ramakrishna. The sea of unconditioned mercy, and be sharers in the bliss that was overflowing. The noise and cries were so great that some of the devotees who afterwards became monks got up from their sleep. Why? Why were they sleeping at that time? In the morning hours, because the whole night, Narendra and all other direct disciples who would become the future monks, they were all meditating intensely. The whole night they were doing sadhana. Ramakrishna was guiding them in spiritual life. They were doing sadhanas. And so the whole night when they were meditating, they had just gone to sleep in the morning. So by this sound, by this commotion, they all woke up by the cries. So some of the devotees who afterwards became monks got up from their sleep and gave up the work they were engaged in. Some of them, like Latu, that is Adbhutananda, they were doing the work of the master. They were cleaning the bed. They were cleaning the room of Sri Ramakrishna. So they all gave up their work. They came rushing and saw that all the devotees stood surrounding Sri Ramakrishna on the pathway in the garden and were behaving like madmen. At once they understood that Sri Ramakrishna was now in that same blessed divine mood under the influence of which he had blessed his special devotees at Dakshineshwar. He was now enacting the same divine play, the bestowal of his grace on a wider circle of people that had now gathered at his feet. Hardly had these devotees, who were the monks in the making, came, then that state of master changed and he was in his normal condition again. Because it was not necessary for those monks. Sri Ramakrishna had given them all that awakening already. They were so pure. They were getting all those things by their self effort. So they were so much forward in spiritual life. Sri Ramakrishna had already given them. So there was no necessity for them. So all of the other people who were here were the householders and all other people who were worldly in their view. So Ramakrishna transformed them to a very high plane. Even all the ordinary people, the worldly people, the householders, everybody into such a high state, which was even difficult for people after so many years of sadhana, so many difficult lives of hard austerity, which they couldn't get. Ramakrishna just bestowed by his words and by his touch to all the people whom it would have taken so many lives to transform or evolve to that higher state. So you can see that is the speciality of the avatar. He had already shown this grace to thousands and thousands of people who came in contact with him and who were all sincere seekers. He had already shown that grace in that high state. But today it was to everybody who had assembled there, and he gave whatever they wanted. That's why that day is termed as Kalpataru Day. January 1st is celebrated as Kalpataru Day. Kalpataru means wish yielding tree. So now it was known on inquiry that the devotees blessed by the master had wonderful experiences and visions. One felt bliss and a sort of intoxication, such as is produced by smoking hemp. Another, an unknown power creeping up within his body. So when Kundalini awakens and starts coming up, the creeping up of energy in his body. So another felt that sensation by the words uttered by Sri Ramakrishna. accompanying bliss. So that is very, very important. It was accompanying bliss, everything, all the experiences here, accompanying bliss. Others saw ecstatic visions the moment they shut their eyes. Many of them saw ecstatic visions the moment they shut their eyes. One of light, those who were at the stage of formless meditation, they saw light in the heart. Another, that's what we meditate. Bhargaha, Bharga means light, Devasya of the Lord. So if some of them saw light, some of them of the shining form of God, their Ishtadevata, which he had been meditating upon, but had not been able to see all hitherto unseen, unheard of, and unfelt experiences. It was, however, clear that although each had a different vision and experience, the feeling of being filled with an extraordinary divine bliss was common to all. So now, many times, I get that many people telling they had visions of God. They had so many other different type of spiritual experiences. So is it true? Is it false? They come and ask me. Were they real, Swamiji? Were they true, or is it the hallucination of my mind? So then I ask them to test yourself. Was it accompanied with bliss? Did that experience reduce all the negative characters in you, like lust, greed, anger, jealousy, attachment, and all these negative qualities? Did it reduce? Did that vision increase the devotion, steadfastness, faith in God? Then your vision is true. Or else, very good, it has come and it will go. That's all. So, the important thing which Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling here is to be noted, because Shardanandaji Maharaj was not an ordinary soul. He is one of the greatest soul with whom Sri Ramakrishna used to mention as soon as he saw him. He told, he opened the Bible and asked him to read some of the statement of Jesus Christ. He used to tell that Shardanandaji Maharaj in his last life was one of the chief apostles of Jesus Christ. Now, many years after that, he might have come down to the earth and performed sadhanas, who knows. But now, what was the utterance of Holy Mother about Shardanandaji Maharaj? When Holy Mother was asked about the status of his spiritual development, Sharda Devi, the Holy Mother, uttered, "Go search all the worlds. Vibhuhu, Bhuvaha, Suvaha, Tapaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Satyaloka, anywhere. Then Atala, Pitala, Patala, Rasatala, Talatala, wherever you go and search, you cannot find a person, a sadhaka, a spiritual aspirant of the status of Swami Shardananda. In large-heartedness, he is next only to Swami Vivekananda. In his large-heartedness, he is next only to Swami Vivekananda. So these were the statements of Holy Mother Sharda Devi. And once Ramakrishna, in an ecstatic mood, while the young youth Shardananda was sitting there, he went and sat on his lap. Then it was looking as if he's trying to find out how much of weight can Shardananda take up. Then he himself told, I was testing how much can Shardananda bear the weight. So, like Vasuki, the the snake, the divine snake, which is bearing the weight of the Lord Vishnu himself, on whom Lord Vishnu is sleeping. So Ramakrishna wanted to give him the weight of all the order, the Ramakrishna Sangha, and also the activities of Sri Ramakrishna. That's why he was chosen. Swami Vivekananda also couldn't write the biography of Sri Ramakrishna, the great avatar. Ramakrishna, Vivekananda used to tell, no, no, I can't. How great is Sri Ramakrishna? I may do something mistake. Instead of creating Lord Shiva, I may create a monkey. I am not the fit person to write the biography. I become too emotional the moment the name Ramakrishna is heard. So somebody else is going to do that. And who was that chosen person who could bring Sri Ramakrishna into life in the form of this biography? It was Shardananda. He was the chosen person. Not only that, he led the organization called the Ramakrishna Sangha as the general secretary, as the first general secretary. When Swami Brahmananda was the spiritual head, the president, the great Shardananda was the general secretary who was looking after all the day-to-day activities, the functions of and guidance of Ramakrishna Sangha. He guided, he gave the direction. So that was Swami Shardananda, not the words of Holy Mother Sharda Devi. He is next only to Swami Vivekananda in large heartedness. So now, one more thing which I want to mention about Shardanandaji Maharaj is, he used to be undergoing lot of sadhana even after Ramakrishna's giving up body in Mahasamadhi. Shardanandaji Maharaj undertook lot of sadhana, varieties of sadhanas. And we should note that Swami Vivekananda had made a rule for all the sadhus who had to reside in Ramakrishna Math or Ramakrishna Sangha, that they should not perform the tantric rituals of the Vamachara. So now, but he had also written in the rules book, anybody performing that should be thrown out of the order. They cannot be kept in the order. Those were the strict words which Swami Vivekananda framed. They are very dangerous and it cannot be practiced. Ramakrishna had done that. But he found that Sharadanandaji Maharaj was practicing all those sadhanas. When he came to know that, Vivekananda accosted, scolded Shardananda, why are you performing those sadhanas, tough sadhanas? Going to the graveyard and doing all those things of the Vamachara, the sadhana, tantric exercises. I've made a rule that nobody should do it, and if they are done, they will be thrown out of the Sangha. They will be not kept in the Sangha. Why are you performing these things? Then Shardanandaji Maharaj told that he has got the permission from Holy Mother Sharda Devi. Why? Why did he perform so much of sadhana? Why did he do all these tough sadhanas? In Shardanandaji Maharaj used to write in his diary, whatever happened in his life, he used to jot down those things in diary, chronologically, date and everything. So in that, if you see the diary, Asheshanandaji Maharaj, who was the Holy Mother's disciple, was also the sevak, attendant of revered Shardanandaji Maharaj. Asheshanji Maharaj lived for more than 90 years and he stayed most of his part, the last portion of his life in USA. He was a very popular monk there. So he has written the biography and other things of Shardanandaji Maharaj because he was his attendant. He knew him very closely. And he has even copied and put that in that life, glimpses of a great soul. That is the life of Shardanandaji Maharaj. In that, he has just given the copy of what Shardanandaji Maharaj had written in his diaries. In that night, 1 o'clock, Shardanandaji Maharaj is writing, I had the vision of Divine Mother Kali. This time I had this vision, these experiences, these experiences. So all that has been jotted down in that book. If you can read the glimpses of the great soul, the life of Shardanandaji Maharaj, you can find so many things there. Now, in that, when he was reading, when he was going through all of that thing, this boy, at that time, Asheshananda was a young boy, disciple of Holy Mother. He was the attendant there. He was the brahmacharin, a novice. One day, he was so close. Shardanandaji Maharaj was so like a mother. He would never get angry, whatever might be the situation. So many times, Swami Vivekananda tried to make him angry. He couldn't. Nobody could make him angry. Such was the control of his mind. Vivekananda tried many times to make him angry. He miserably failed. He couldn't. He couldn't. Nobody could disturb his mind. Such was the firm state of mind. So Vivekananda used to comment, Shashi, not Shashi, Sharat has the blood of the fish, cold blooded. It doesn't become hot at all. His blood doesn't become hot at all. He's so cool. His mind is so calm and quiet, nobody can disturb him. So while he was writing all the life and experiences of Sri Ramakrishna and all the visions of Sri Ramakrishna, because he was so dear, like a mother, so loving, would never get angry, just used to shower love and love on everybody, affection, no anger at all. Anybody, everybody could approach. So this novice, this brahmachari, at that time it was Asheshananda, he was so close, so he could take the lenience, and he started playing pranks also sometimes with Shardanandaji Maharaj, just like children will play prank with mother. So because they have the lenience, so he used to play sometimes the pranks with Shardanandaji Maharaj. One day, while he was writing this book of the Leela Prasanga, or the great master, Sri Ramakrishna, he saw all the visions and everything of Sri Ramakrishna, higher vision, samadhi, that the tantric sadhanas and everything. He asked him, made a prank. Swamiji, have you written all these experiences by getting some experience, knowing it very well, or just you have written, copied it, what Ramakrishna had it or not, without having any experience of it? Just you have written it there. The moment he uttered these words, have you written about all these experiences of Sri Ramakrishna without knowing, without experiencing it? Shardanandaji Maharaj became very serious at that time. Rarely he used to go into that mood. He became very serious. Sheshanji was taken back when those words were told by him. Have you written all those experiences of Sri Ramakrishna without knowing it or without experiencing it? He became very serious. He told, not one experience in this book, Leela Prasanga. Note it, Shardanandaji Maharaj's statement, not one experience. What has been written in this great master have I written without first myself experiencing it. Shardanandaji Maharaj became very stern and serious, and he uttered these words. Not one of the experience in this great master, whatever you are reading, have I written it without first myself experiencing it. So you should note that whatever is written here, all that samadhis and all the other experiences. So that's why you might be knowing why did Shardanandaji Maharaj do all those sadhanas, going to the graveyard, doing all those sadhana, shavasana, and all the other things. Whatever Sri Ramakrishna has done in the form of tantric sadhanas, the 64 tantras, because he would be the writer. He would be writing the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Whenever the opportunity arose, wherever the experiences, whatever Sri Ramakrishna had, he had to first experience it himself. So he had to go and perform those sadhanas, perform everything which Sri Ramakrishna has done. And then only after experiencing it, first himself knowing it, he has written here. So it is not an ordinary soul who has written this book. It's extraordinary soul, Shardananda, who has written this book. So whatever he has written here is first experienced by him and then written. And he was such a great soul. So that's why we have to note every experiences which is telling, every word Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling carries lot of weight. Why are you feeling so much of joy? Why are you feeling so much of elevation? This life has not been written by ordinary soul. So why am I not taking another translation? Because the Swami who is staying in America, St. Louis, Swami Chetanananda Maharaj, who is popular for his so many books, because thinking that the English translation of this book is very terse and with all the British English complex sentences, compound sentences, very, very tough. If you read alone, you don't understand even the head and tail of these things. So he has made it very simple. He has written it in the American English, making it very, very simple. But why have I not taken that? Because the first thing, the life was written by the great Shardanandaji Maharaj, the realized soul, and another great realized soul, Swami Jagadanandaji Maharaj, was a great realized soul. Another Jagadanandaji Maharaj, who had seen all these great direct disciples who lived with them, Jagadananda. He has translated that from Bengali into English. So, the life of a great avatara, written by a great disciple of the avatara, Shardanandaji Maharaj. And that has been translated by another realized soul, Swami Jagadanandaji Maharaj, who had seen all these direct disciples. So that's why I take up this book, this English translation, which is translated into English. So whatever words, whatever things they write here, the sentences, they carry energy, they carry spiritual energy. That's the reason I take up these things. So now let us go forward to read, to study. So when others saw ecstatic visions, the moment they shut their eyes, one, so many of them saw the light within, another, some of them of the shining form of God, their Ishtadevata, they had been meditating upon but had not been able to see, all hitherto unseen, unheard of, and unfelt experiences. It was, however, clear that although each had a different vision and experiences, the feeling of being filled with an extraordinary divine bliss was common to all. So I took up that explanation because I wanted to show who Shardanandaji Maharaj was. He was not an ordinary soul. He was chosen by the great power, Mother Kali, the great avatara, Gadadhara Vishnu himself, to write his biography. So the one of the greatest Ishvara Kotis. So Holy Mother Sharada Devi used to tell him, he is my Vasuki, he is my Gane, he is my Vasuki. So that was Shardanandaji Maharaj. But why am I stressing that here? Because he's telling more than this, each felt, and all this awakening of the Kundalini, having all the visions, having all these experiences, having the Ishtadevata in their heart, having the vision, having the light in their heart, everything. More than this, each felt that extraordinary mental change or experience was brought about by the transmission of superhuman power by the master and it was accompanied by feel that everybody's experience, the feeling was accompanied being filled with an extraordinary divine bliss. Why? You are of the nature of bliss. All of us are nature of bliss. As I told you, we have that infinite strength, infinite knowledge, infinite consciousness, infinite joy within us. So every experience was accompanied by extraordinary, they were filled with extraordinary divine bliss. That experience was common to all. Shardanandaji Maharaj is writing, in all the experiences, in all the visions, in all the transformation given by Sri Ramakrishna to all of them, it was accompanied, it was being filled with an extraordinary divine bliss. It was common to all. More than this, each felt that the extraordinary mental change or experience was brought about by the transmission of a superhuman power by Sri Ramakrishna. All of them felt. There were only two of the devotees present. There were only two of the householder devotees who were present there, whom Sri Ramakrishna did not bless that day. Ramakrishna didn't touch them. When he saw them, he told, "Not now. I will give you this after some time. You are not yet fit. Not now." Two of them. All hundreds who were there, so many who were there, we do not know how many people were there. More than 100. All of them got it. But out of them, only two of them, Sri Ramakrishna told, "Not now." And it was those two only that considered themselves unfortunate and felt dejected on that happy occasion. Some days later, after that, some days later, Sri Ramakrishna touched these two also that way and gave them the spiritual transformation. But that particular day, he didn't give these two. Why? God alone knows, Ramakrishna alone knows. So when you have the vision of Sri Ramakrishna, you can ask him, why didn't you give them? So another fact stands out from this, that it was not at all certain when the divine power would graciously manifest itself through Sri Ramakrishna and bless anyone. We all know that a divine being, two people lived in that body of Sri Ramakrishna. One was the Leela, the Bhakta, the devotee Ramakrishna, the childlike devotee. Another was the Nitya, the Lord, the Gadadhara Vishnu. So he would manifest whenever he wanted and give, bless the devotees when they used to come. So what is that Shardananda Maharaj is mentioning here? Another fact stands out from this, that it was not at all certain when that infinite, ancient being, the divine power, when that divine power would graciously manifest itself through the person of Sri Ramakrishna, through the master, and bless anyone. Nobody could know when that manifestation would come suddenly and bless the person who has come there. It is also doubtful whether Sri Ramakrishna himself would have known or understood this in his normal consciousness. But it is important to note that Sri Ramakrishna would become a great instrument of the universal I. So that is what you can understand what is Bhava Mukha. So when he used to go touch that infinity, that Parabrahma Swarupa will become that and then bless everybody. Otherwise, he will be in the world like an ordinary child of Divine Mother, like a devotee. So that's, you can see, another aspect of Bhava Mukha. But it is important to note, Shardananda Maharaj is telling that Sri Ramakrishna would become a great instrument of the universal I or the Divine Mother in manifesting that power. only because he could give up completely the unripe or unlimited I. So, as I'm again and again and again and again mentioning, I'm also quoting Swami Vivekananda many, many times because as spiritual aspirants, we should all know the basics of spiritual life. We enter, jump into the bandwagon without knowing where we are going, what we are doing. It is just like going to the railway station or the aerodrome or the airport. And when the ticket person wants to issue the ticket, you give the money and ask him, give me a ticket, where to, wherever you like. You tell the ticket giver, the person who is issuing you the ticket. So you are given the money and he is asking, what's your destination? Where do you want to go? Then you reply, whichever place you want, you can decide and give me the ticket. It is just like that. So when we enter into the spiritual life, we should always know what is the basics of spiritual life, what is the foundation, what are we doing, where are we going. If we do not know and simply just go forward, everybody is going, I'm also doing that, then you will be in the lurch. So again and again, why I stress and tell these words, because with great difficulty we have come to know after so many years. Vivekananda is again and is again stressing. You read in the complete works of Swami Vivekananda in the Karma Yoga, Swami Vivekananda explains, if you crush, if you filter all the paths to God, all the religions, all the yogas, four yogas or how many ever yogas it may be, if you crush everything and take the residue, you filter it. What is the essence you get from that? Swami Vivekananda puts in a wonderful, very rare English words, combination of English words, which I have not read anywhere else, in whichever English books I have never heard it. Perfect self abnegation. Perfect self abnegation. You know, perfect, you know, self. So, your self means your ego, selfishness. Negation, you know, removing it. Abnegation, completely removing it. So, completely removing your wrong ego, egoism, I, completely giving up your selfishness, being unselfish, selfless, is the basics of spiritual life. But we never do that. So if you go on becoming unselfish, if you go on removing your ego, then you are automatically going forward in spiritual life by default. But we don't do that. We go on increasing our ego. We go on increasing the byproducts of all ego, egotism, and also we become so selfish. Everything first to me, everything to me, everything. I should get everything first. If I am happy, that is finished. No, others may die or do whatever they want. I'm not bothered about it. My happiness is the paramount thing. So we become so selfish and we tell we are going forward in spiritual life. Not an inch will you move forward in spiritual life with ego and selfishness. So we have to give up that selfishness, become unselfish, feel for others, serve others, give up our anger, give up our angularities, give up our ego, see the God in everybody, because it is not something you have to see it, it is there. God is manifesting in all the living forms. See that manifestation of the Lord in everybody and serve them. Give out only love and affection and only good things, positive things. Never give out any bad things to the living beings. That is the basics of spiritual life. We don't understand what is spiritual life. Just sitting there, closing your nose and closing your eyes, you think you are going forward in spiritual life. Not at all. These are the basics. All these things should give you this. You have to become more unselfish. You have to become less egoistic. You have to become more loving, caring, not only to your family members, but everybody, everyone, you should be oozing out that affection and service to everybody. So let it start with your family first. Let it start with your family members. Philanthropy, charity begins at home. Start seeing manifestation of God in your father, in your mother, in your grandfather, in your sisters, in your brothers, in your husband, in your wife. Every living being God exists. Withstand all the difficulties, all their angularities, all their egos. Just give out, pour out service and love and affection, nothing else. So that is the basics of spiritual life. So again and again, stress that so that we all be aware of what is the basics of spiritual life. Then we can easily progress forward in spiritual life. Otherwise, we will be in the same old place. The example I get of Sri Ramakrishna is some drunkards, after completely getting intoxicated, drinking a lot, they wanted to go back to their home. They had to cross the river. 7 or 8 of them sat in the boat. They were expert rowing the boatmen. So they took the oar and started rowing and rowing and rowing and rowing the whole night. They never reached the destination. It was already day. They started in the night time. The whole night, 12 hours is over. Now sun has come up and it is so bright. Yet they are in the same place. They have not moved even an inch. They're still rowing. So their intoxication had come down. Now they could think and they saw what has happened. They have not removed the anchor at all. They have not removed the tether or the rope which was holding on to the hook or to the bank of the river. This bank of the river, there was a hook put onto that stump or whatever there to hold it so that the boat will not go away, flow away. They have not removed that rope or whatever, the anchor, and they are rowing and rowing and rowing and rowing 12 hours. Not a single inch have they moved. They are in the same place. It will be like that. If we don't give up our selfishness, if we don't give up our ego, and although the and also the bad negative byproducts of all that ego, and we think that we are going forward in spiritual life, it is just like these drunkards, the boatsmen. We will be staying in the same place. We may think we are moving forward, nothing. So give up your ego. Gradually convert. You cannot even, it's not so easy. That's why Ramakrishna tells, convert that into ripened ego. Now you are telling, I am the son of such and such a person. I am having that degrees and master degrees, and I'm such a great intelligent person. I have so much of money. I have so much of building. Instead of identifying with these worldly things, identify yourself. I am the child of Narayana. I am child of Mother Durga. I am child of Mother Kali. I am the child of Ramakrishna. I am child of Sharada Devi. I am the child of Ganesha. I am Parabrahma Swarupa. I am Atma Swarupa. This is ripened ego. So that's what. Then when you do that, when you are the child of God, you have to be so compassionate and you will be serving all the children of God, isn't it? When you are the Parabrahma Swarupa, the creator, all the universe, can you see anybody in suffering and keep quiet? You'll go out of the way to help everybody. So that is the being, the identifying yourself with Atma Swarupa, because Atman will be seen in every living being. So not just simply telling Aham Brahmasmi or Atma, I am the Atman, and then keeping quiet. If anybody is in trouble or anybody is in difficulty, you tell, oh, that is that his karma and keep quiet. No, that's not the idea. Then when you become the Parabrahma Swarupa, identify with the Parabrahma Swarupa, how can you keep quiet? Seeing the trouble and sorrows of the Lord, you will be helping them. You'll be in all the ways you'll be serving them. So showing only whatever, wherever, how much ever capacity you have, showing that love and affection and service to everybody. So that is the important aspect of spiritual life. So let us keep it in our mind always. So Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling another fact stand out from this, that it was not at all certain when the divine power in Sri Ramakrishna would graciously manifest itself through the master and bless anyone. It is also doubtful whether Sri Ramakrishna himself could have known or understood this in his normal consciousness. But it is important to note that Sri Ramakrishna would become a great instrument of the universal I or the Divine Mother in manifesting that power only because He could give up completely. Why did he become the instrument? Why did Divine Mother stay in the body of Sri Ramakrishna and do all those things? Only because Sri Ramakrishna could give up completely the unripe ego or limited I. So if we also gradually give up this egoism, ego, the limited I, then the Lord will also make us the instrument in His hand and use us to do His work. And that is real self surrender. Not simply uttering the word surrender, oh, I have surrendered, I've given up everything to Lord. Words are not enough. It should be shown in deed. It should be shown in action, words, thought, in everything. Kaya, Vacha, Manasa. And that wonderful manifestation through him of the aspect of Divine Mother, the spiritual teacher of man. So Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling that the wonderful manifestation through him of the aspect. So who manifested? Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling that is the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother, the highest Godhead, the Divine Mother as a spiritual teacher of man became possible because he completely gave up the unripe I. Completely gave up the unripe I. So if you give up that ego, if you give up that unripe I, then Ramakrishna will also manifest in you and he will do the work for humanity, Loka Kalyana. So that's what we have to become, the real instrument. So because Ramakrishna gave up the unripe I and converted himself into the humblest of the humble, Vinayata, the history of the religions of the world is an eternal witness to the fact that it was only by merging of the limited I-ness in this way that the mood or the power of the spiritual teacher becomes manifest in the lives of all the incarnations of the world. We have been hearing from time immemorial that one cannot realize spirituality or God if one held the belief that the spiritual teacher is a mere human being. We have been hearing, Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling, we have been hearing from time immemorial that one cannot realize spirituality or God if one held the belief that the spiritual teacher, our spiritual teacher Guru, is a mere human being. Mannato Jagannato Madguruhu Jagadguruhu Mamatma Sarvabhutatma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. That Guru Stotra Mannato Jagannatha. My Guru is not the ordinary Guru, the body, cage, and other things. Jagannatha. He is the Ishvara, the Lord. Madguruhu, Jagadguruhu. My Guru, he is the universal Guru, the teacher. Amatma, Sarvabhuta So the Guru is not only the Atman within me, but he is the Sarvabhuta Atma. Sarvabhuta, the Atman living in all the living beings. That is my Guru. Don't think that your Guru who has given you the Mantra Diksha is just that particular body mind complex, the body. No. So, Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling, we have been hearing from time immemorial that one cannot realize spirituality. One cannot realize spirituality or God if one held the belief that the spiritual teacher, that your spiritual teacher, Guru, is a mere human being. We have always been repeating with or without faith the hymn. What is that? The same thing which I told just now. We have always been repeating. The moment we start any function, immediately tell Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave. We don't mean anything. Yes, we just utter like a parrot. And also make even the pronunciation mistakes. In Sanskrit, there is no Guruve Namaha. It is Gurave. The Sanskrit thing there is Gurave Namaha. Guru Brahma means Guruhu Brahma. Guru Vishnu, that Arkara comes because there is Visarga. Guruhu Vishnu. Gurur Devo. Why that Gurur? Gurur, that is Visarga, is converted into Arkara. Gurur Devo. Guruhu Devo Maheshwaraha. Is verily your Guru, is verily the Brahma, the creator. Is definitely your Guru, is definitely the Lord Vishnu. Your Guru is none other than Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, the Ishvara, Maha Ishvara, the Lord of the Lord, Raja Rajeshwara. Your Guru is none other than that Guru Sakshat. Verily, your Guru is Param Brahma, the highest Nirakara Nirguna Parabrahma, Akhanda Satchid Ananda. That's why Shri Gurave Namaha. I bow down to my Guru. So your Guru who has given you the mantra diksha is not the ordinary human being, but he is verily the creator. Brahma is verily the sustainer, Lord Vishnu is verily the Lord of the Lords, Maheshwara is nothing but Sakshat, the Parabrahma, the highest Nirakara, formless, attributeless, all pervasive, omnipotent, omnipresent Parabrahma. That is your Guru. So I'll read again, then you can understand. Shardananda Juma is telling, we have been hearing from time immemorial that one cannot realize spirituality or God if one held the belief that the spiritual teacher is mere human being. We have always been repeating with or without faith the hymn that the spiritual teacher is Brahma, the spiritual teacher is Vishnu, the spiritual teacher Guru is the divine Maheshwara, with reference to the teacher who initiate us in the mantra. Many who are under the spell of a foreign system of education, the Shardanandaji Maharaj, who himself had the foreign education, the English education, the Western education of that time, he was well versed in the Western education, the British university education at that time, very strict, not compromised as of now. Everything is become so easy to get the degrees. Then it was so difficult even to pass your 10th grade. The rules were very strict, and in that Shardanandaji Maharaj had attained proficiency in the Western education. So such a Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling many, almost all of us, who are under the spell of a foreign system of education based on religion, regard it to be a great sin to use such words with reference to a particular human being, and are not slow to indulge in noisy controversy. For who then knew that, though it manifested itself through the personalities of some human beings, the mood of the spiritual teacher was not anything rooted within the realm of the human consciousness. Note it again, Shardanandaji Maharaj words. For who then knew that, though it manifested itself through the personalities of some human being, the mood of the spiritual teacher was not anything rooted within the realm of the human consciousness. Who then knew that even as she manifested herself as water, air, food, and other materials for the maintenance of the body of all the living beings, it was the Divine Mother that revealed herself in that mood of the teacher. Again, note it was the Divine Mother, Durga or Kali, that revealed herself in the mood of the teacher through the body and mind of Sri Ramakrishna. Rendered pure, so purify your mind and body. Rendered pure, awakened, and free from the limited ego. Give up your ego. for the purpose of removing the three kinds of miseries, tapatraya, adibhautika, adhyatmika, adidaivika, all the three types of afflictions. Tapatraya, three types of affliction. Tapa, traya, the sufferings, three different types of sufferings, all the different types of sufferings we have, the pain we have, to remove that. So, who knew then that even she, the Divine Mother, manifested herself as water, air, food, and other materials for the maintenance of the bodies of all the beings? It was that Divine Mother that revealed herself in the mood of the teacher, Guru, through the body and mind of Sri Ramakrishna, rendered pure, awakened, and free from the limited ego, for the purpose of removing the three kinds of miseries, afflictions, scorching man, for freeing him from the bondage in which the tight chains of Maya have been holding him. And who knew then that one became the instrument for the manifestation of that mood or power in direct proportion to one's capacity to give up one's egoism of the unripe I? Again and again and again, Shardananda Maharaj is telling. What is that? And who then knew that one became the instrument of the manifestation of that mood or power in direct proportion to one's capacity to give up one's egoism of the unripe I? If you give up the manifestation of that unripe ego, so proportionally, directly proportionally, the Divine Mother or the higher force, the Lord, will manifest in you too, and you will also become the instrument. That's what Sharda Prabhuji Maharaj is stressing all through. I'm reminding you again and again. Give up your that unripe ego. Ego is the cause. Ego is the Maya. Ego is the one which is binding us to this world. All the sufferings, all the blows is because of the ego. Ramakrishna gives the wonderful story of the cow, the calf, when it is born. It makes that sound, amba, amba. So, hamba, hum, aham means I am everything. I. So, it is tied to the thread. They will make the hole in the nose and put a rope to control it. Then, if it is a male, they will make it the bullock. They will do the castration, so much of pain. Then, if it is a female, then it has to give birth so many times, it has to milk. So, all through the life, it is telling amba, 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 aham, aham, I. So it has to undergo so much of suffering, the calf, when it is growing. It is put to the cart, it is put to the yoke, it is put to the oil man's, the grinder oil, one who prepares the oil. So it will be yoked to that machinery. So it is to go round and round and round to only crush that some oily things, that oily grains, and get the oil for that master. It gets a little grass, that's all, some food. It is to go round and round and take the cart, pull the cart, just pulling the beast of burden. So after that, will its difficulty stop? No. Still it is crying hamba, hamba, hamba. It will be beaten blue and black. When it becomes old, then the cow will be given to the butcher. The butcher will cut it again pain, because still amba, amba. Then the hide will be removed, it will be skinned. So they will make so many things out of that body. And after that, the skin is made into drums, and they will be making that into leather shoes or leather slippers. The human beings and other people will wear it. Still, it will be telling amba, amba. So the difficulty has not ended. They will wear it and wear it and wear it and go and go on using it. Still, it has to undergo so much of difficulty. Then it will be made drums, the hide, the skin. They will make tabla, they will make drums, dolak. They will make all the things, the big, big drums too. Then they will beat it, dum, 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 still. when the drum is beaten, still it will be making the sound amba amba dum dum. I. It will be telling I only. So still it will be beaten and beaten. The drum will be beaten. The story is told by Sri Ramakrishna about the ego. Then after that, finally it has got nice beating. It has come to know, if I tell if I'm egoistic, I'll be getting lot of blows and beatings. So now at last that skin will be removed to make the rope in the man who prepares beddings. So that man will have a special instrument, a long instrument, wooden instrument. On that there'll be a string. That string will be made out of this skin of the cow. So it will be very thin skin, but it will be very strong. So it will be tied just like a bow. It's a bow like thing. So it will be tightly stretched, and they will put this cotton, raw cotton, or that cotton which is not yet cultured, on that, and they will make that vibrate that, pull the strings, putting the cotton. Then the cotton will be made to open up, become soft. The uncultured cotton becomes very beautiful, puffed up, and that cotton will be used to the bed to make the pillows to make it very soft. That's how the maker of the bed or the pillows will use that string. It's in olden days India. Now all the machineries have come up. That is the words Ramakrishna is using. In those days, no machineries. This is the way they used to do. The maker of the bed used to use the skin. At that time, now it has almost finished his life. Even after death, it is still undergoing beatings and beating. Even after death, as the drums, as the slippers, as now finally it has come to its senses that if I tell I will be still beaten and I will be getting so much difficulties. Then at last, when that person, the bed maker, is stringing, is making that cotton, this thing, at that time it makes the sound, not amba amba. Now it is not I. Tuhu, tuhu, tui, tui. It will make the sound tuhu, tuhu. In Bengali, tuhu means you. Until now, it was telling ahamba, amba, I. I am the thing. I will do it. I am the great. I am that. I am this. Everything. I. Now, when it has received lot of blows and sufferings and everything, now it has given up. It knows that the more I tell I become egoistic. I get nice beatings and blows. So now it will start telling, O Lord, not I, but thou, tu who, you, O Lord, you, not me. So they have made that as in gospel. Some of the four Mahavakyas are there, four or many Mahavakyas of Ramakrishna. This is one of them. Great statement of Sri Ramakrishna. What is that? O Lord, not I, but thou. O Lord, not I, but thou. O Lord, not I, but thou. Tu who, naham, tu who. Naham, tu who, not I, but thou. So until that cow was telling Hamba, Hamba, so much of difficulty, even after death, drums made to drum slippers, dum, beaten nicely, black and blue, so much of difficulty, even after death. So finally, when it comes to realize that until I tell I have that ego, I'll be beaten, I'll be I'll be getting so much of blows and sufferings and pains. The moment it gives up that I and start telling, not thou, sorry, not I, but thou, O Lord, tu who, you, O Lord, you, not me, then all its difficulties ends. This is a wonderful story told by Ramakrishna. And now again Shardananda Maharaj is mentioning how can you become the instrument in the hands of the Divine Mother or the Lord? How can the Lord manifest in you? For you to manifest that Lord is already there within you. You have to remove that ego, the unripe ego. So who then knew that though it manifested itself through the personalities of some human beings, the mood of the spiritual teacher was not anything rooted within the realm of the human consciousness? Who then knew that even as she, the Divine Mother, the highest Divine Mother, manifested herself as water, air, food, and other materials for the maintenance of the bodies of all the living beings, it was that same Divine Mother that revealed herself in the mood of the teacher through the body and mind of Sri Ramakrishna, rendered pure, awakened, and free from the limited ego, and free from the limited ego, I, egotism, for the purpose of removing the three kinds of miseries scorching man, for freeing him from the bondage in which the tight chain of Maya have been holding him. And who then knew that one became, who then knew that one became, one means you, I, everybody, one can become, you can become. Who then knew that one became the instrument of the for the manifestation of that mood, instrument for the manifestation of that mood or power in direct proportion, in direct proportion to one's capacity to give up one's egoism. It is directly proportional. Note it again. Who then knew that one became, all of us would become the instrument for the manifestation of that divine mood of the Lord or the divine mother of our God or the power in direct proportion to one's capacity to give up one's egoism of the unripe I. Ordinarily, a very little, a drop or two, so to speak, of this divine power manifests in the minds of persons who are liberated in life, Jivan Muktas, in the saints and other great people, other liberated souls, the Jivan Muktas, liberated even while living, ordinarily, a very little, a drop or two, a drop or two, so to speak, of this divine power manifests in the minds of persons who are liberated in life, in those great saints, Jivan Muktas. The manifestation is so slight that it eludes our understanding. But when, through an abundance of good fortune, one witnesses the wonderful Leela of the divine power in Lord Krishna, in Buddha, in Chaitanya, Shankaracharya, and other incarnation of the past, and in Sri Ramakrishna in the present age, one feels one's hearts of hearts, one feels in the hearts of the hearts, such manifestation of power does not belong to any mortal man but to God alone. Only then do the scales of Dross, the myopic or the long side or short side, or the blocking our eyes, the membrane, we go and get operated for the cataract covering. So only then the scales of dross and delusion fall off from the eyes of those who suffer from this world disease and who consequently go in pursuit of false values. They cry out then, they cry out then in an outburst of joy. All those people cry out then in an outburst of joy, O Guru, O Gurudeva, O Master, O Gurudeva, Guru Maharaj, O Master, thou art not man. O Master, O Gurudeva, thou art not man. Thou art he, thou art he. You are that highest Godhead, thou art he. Therefore, we see it is the universal mother. We see it is the universal mother who manifests herself as the exalted divine power and removes all kinds of impurities. Therefore, we see it is the universal mother who manifests herself as the exalted divine power and removes all kinds of impurities due to spiritual ignorance from the human mind. This is what is called the mood. This is what is called the mood or power of spiritual teacher. This is what is called the mood or power of the spiritual teacher, the Guru Bhava. The Guru Bhava or the Guru Shakti. This is manifested through different living beings, the saints, the sages, and the avatar Purushas. This power, which removes the impurities due to spiritual ignorance for the human mind, from the human mind, this is called the mood or power of the spiritual teacher, the Guru Bhava or the Guru Shakti. It is this divine power, Shakti, which the scriptures, the Shastras speak of as the spiritual teacher, Guru. And it is to this power that man is called upon to offer his heart's reverence and adoration with unflinching faith. Shardananda Maharaj is stressing it again and again. It is this divine power, Shakti, which the scriptures speak of as a spiritual teacher. And it is to this power that man is called upon to offer his heart's reverence and adoration with unflinching faith. Faith is the answer. Faith is very, very important. The human mind that is conversant with the gross world only, the human mind that is conversant with the gross world only and is just learning the first lesson in devotion and reverence cannot, of course, love a bodiless, intangible power. And it is for this reason that the scriptures advise us to look upon the person who initiates us into this life divine as the Guru, and to have a devotion to his personality, seeing the real divine Guru in and through him. Again, note it. It's very, very important for all of us as sadhakas, the spiritual initiates. And what is that? What is that beautiful thing which Shardananda Maharaj is telling us? The human mind that is conversant with the gross world only and is just learning the first lesson in devotion and reverence. We are in the kindergarten of spiritual life. Is just learning the first lesson in devotion and reverence cannot, of course, love a bodiless, tangible power. How can you understand a bodiless, tangible power? Sorry, bodiless, intangible. Bodiless, intangible power. Ordinary people like us in the initial stages of spiritual life in the kindergarten, how can you know about that? Bodiless, intangible power. And it is for this reason, that the scriptures advise us to look upon the person who initiates us with the mantra, Divya mantra, into this life divine, into the spiritual life as the Guru, and to have devotion to his personality. That is the reason that why we should have the devotion to the personality was given as the mantra Diksha. Seeing the real divine Guru in and through him. Seeing the real divine Guru, the Satchit Ananda, the Divine Mother, Sri Ramakrishna, himself manifested in your own Guru, was given you the mantra Diksha. Seeing the real divine Guru in and through him. Therefore, to those who say that they have reverence and adoration for the power manifesting as a spiritual teacher, but cannot on that account alone bow their heads in reverence and devotion to the body through which that power manifests itself, to those who thus make a distinction between the power and the medium of its manifestation, our reply is a grave warning that they should not fall a prey to self-deception by discriminating between the unseen power and its medium of manifestation, and pretend to pay homage to the unseen while neglecting to do so its seen manifestation. What a wonderful thing. What a wonderful thing we have to understand. In all the ways, this is to be understood properly and put into practice. Therefore, to those who say, some people claim, no, we will only see that unseen force. We don't want this human body. We can't revere this human body with all its weakness and limitations. Therefore, to those who say that they have reverence and devotion to the body, sorry, those who have reverence and adoration for the power only. Therefore, to those who say that they have reverence and adoration for the power manifesting as a spiritual teacher, but cannot on that account alone bow their heads in reverence and devotion to the body through which the power manifests itself, to those who thus make a distinction between the power and the medium of its manifestation, between the power and the medium of its manifestation, our reply is a grave warning. Our reply is a grave warning that they should not fall a prey to the self deception. You're deceiving yourself. That they should not fall a prey to the self deception by discriminating between the unseen power and its medium of manifestation and pretend to pay homage to the unseen while neglecting to do so its seen manifestation. So I used to sing a song in India. Guruve Shivanu, Shivane Guru. The Lord Shiva is the Guru, and Guru is Lord Shiva. There is no bheda in both of them. There is no difference. If anybody is trying to make a difference between the Guru and Shiva, then they will go to the worst of the hells. Ravarava Naraka. Ravarava. One of the worst of the hell name is called Ravarava. Ravarava Naraka. Tappadu. They will never miss it. They will go to that without fail. If anybody discriminates or differentiate between the Guru and Shiva, Shivane Guruvu, Guruve Shivanu. Ivaralli Antaravillavayya. There is no difference between them, Guru and Shiva. If somebody is trying to discriminate, differentiate between the Guru and Shiva, the highest Godhead, then for him, the worst of the hell is definitely ready for him to accept him. So, in a different way, Sharadanandaji Maharaj is telling it is self deception. To those who make a distinction between the power and the medium of its manifestation, our reply is a grave warning that they should not fall a prey to the self deception by discriminating between the unseen power and its seen medium of manifestation, and pretend to pay homage to the unseen while neglecting to do so to its seen manifestation. The difference itself is as thin. The difference itself is as thin and indistinct as that between fire and its burning power. What a wonderful analogy. This is the analogy given by Sri Ramakrishna. The difference between Guru and the highest Godhead, the divine power, the difference itself is as thin and indistinct as that between the fire and the burning power. Can you separate the fire and the burning power? So there is no difference, that is the meaning. And as to the act of adoration of the unseen and the unknown, the least said the better. How can you adore? How can you respect the unseen, the unmanifested, when you cannot adore, when you cannot serve the manifested? If you don't see God in your own father and mother who have given birth to you and looked after you with so much care, with your own kith and kin, how can you see God manifested in the poor, the diseased? So if you cannot see the Lord who is manifested form in the human being, how can you, that is bogus claim that I will see only in the unmanifest, unseen. It's a bogus claim. What do you mean by? How will you adore an unseen thing? How will you adore a formless thing? How will you adore unmanifest thing? How will you manifest your adoration to the unmanifest? It's paradoxical. It's oxymoron. So the difference itself is as thin and as indistinct as that between the fire and the burning power. And as to the act of adoration of the unseen and the unknown, the least said the best. The least said the best. How can one of the two be adored and the other be rejected? How can one of the two be adored and the other rejected? A man who loves or admires somebody, a man or a woman who loves or admires somebody, feels special attachment for even a trifling thing used by his beloved. Note it. A very ordinary example, a worldly example given by Shardanandaji Maharaj. A man or a woman who loves or admires somebody feels special attachment for even a trifling thing used by his beloved. He considers even a flower touched by him or her, a piece of cloth worn, or a small thing used by him or her as sacred. The very ground he treats is regarded by him to be very dear and precious. Does this then need to be explained that he will have a natural reverence for the body through which he accepts his worship and bestow grace on him? Those who disagree do not understand at all what is meant by the mood of the spiritual teacher. For one who has the true devotion to that power cannot but have devotion to the body of the Guru, the receptacle of that power. So, what a wonderful way to end today's discussion about the greatness of the Guru, the manifestation. The Lord will choose that pure to manifest the pure body, though it has all the limitation, the pure where the ego is lessened and has become the instrument. So the important aspect is you too can to become that. If you manifest that ego less and less, the more you obliterate it, negate it, abnegate it. Perfect self-abnegation, removal of ego, removal of selfishness, then the Lord will manifest in you too. It's already there within you, it will manifest. So that is the basics of spiritual life. Unselfishness is God. Unselfishness is God. Why does mother and father are revered as God themselves? Because unselfishness. Why is Guru revered as God? Because Guru is unselfishness, unconditional. Why is God God? Because of unselfishness. So if you want to attain to the divinity, unselfishness, removal of ego is the only method, no other method. Okay, we will end our conversation. So we have learned so many things by the wonderful teachings of Shardanandaji Maharaj using the life of Sri Ramakrishna. We are really blessed. So if you have any questions about today's discussion or of spiritual life, you can ask. Any doubts, any questions?
Om Swamiji.
Om.
Thank you, Swamiji. It's a very thought-provoking discussion today. We have to digest all of this, what you just mentioned, a lot of facts.
Yeah.
But thank you again for such a wonderful discussion this morning.
Yeah, wonderful. So all these things will be uploaded by our Sunny Jagwant. I think Sunny Jagwant's son, that is Sridhar Jagwant. If he has not uploaded it, he should upload all these things into the YouTube channel. All of you can again and again go through the life of Sri Ramakrishna in this fashion, and you can digest more and more and more. I request Sridhar Jagwant to upload all these things if he has not uploaded it.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? I think tomorrow's class, that is today is Thursday, tomorrow is Friday, will be the last class for this year. So we will pray to Divine Mother to make us meet again. We do not know when she wills. We'll pray to her. Any other questions? Any other doubts? Okay, we will end our conversation with a prayer. ॐ प्रियतां पुण्डरीकाक्षः सर्वयज्ञेश्वरो हरिः तस्मिन् तुष्टे जगत्तुष्टं प्रीणिते प्रीणितं जगत् हरिः ॐ तत्सत् श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु